If there's one thing I've learned in over a decade of building people first programs, it's this: how we work defines what we deliver. And that's exactly what's playing out across marketing right now. Behind every strategy, campaign, and customer experience delivery is a shift in how marketing operates. As marketing grows more data driven, distributed, and demand heavy, the role of marketing operations has evolved into one of the most strategic functions inside modern teams. And now, with AI layered into mix, marketing ops is shifting again from process coordination to intelligence. In fact, according to Martech, 69% of marketeers had already integrated AI into their operations in 2024. And 25, it's all about predicting what comes next, proactively steering strategies, campaigns, and customer journeys with precision and confidence. Today's keynote sets the stage for that shift. We are thrilled to set the tone for what's possible when strategy meets smart execution. Our keynote speaker today is someone who truly needs no introduction in the world of marketing operations. Please join me in welcoming Darrell Alfonso, currently Director of Marketing Strategy and Operations at Indeed. He's held leadership roles with the Martech Alliance, AWS, American Marketing Association, and more. He is someone who's lived the complexity, led the transformation, and helped hundreds of teams operationalize excellence at scale. So here's Darrell speaking on unleashing marketing excellence, how AI empowers marketing operations for greater precision and impact. The stage is all yours.
Great. Thanks, Mahek. Appreciate it. And everyone can hear me, right? Yes. Okay, great. Hey, so good to be here. And thanks for all of you for joining me. And I love conferences like this. And I appreciate all of you dedicating your time out of your day to learn and hear some ideas. And I hope it helps. So let's get started. So my presentation is how the best teams are preparing for the next era of growth. I've got a ton of stuff to talk about, and it's going to be good. Talk about what foresight means to me, marketing maturity, measurement, AI and execution, great reporting, and the technology that you need to get there. And so let's get into it. Got a lot of great things to talk about. The first thing that I want to sort of riff on is this concept of insights to foresight. And I want to level set by talking about where we are, because it was so interesting for me to think about this concept. And on this timeline, you can see some of the major technology breakthroughs, and we're going through one right now with AI. And I thought of, there's some big questions that happen with each tectonic shift. And the question for me is, how will the world change and how does work change? And when the internet launched in the 90s, the question that everybody was asking themselves was, how will the world change now that all of the world's information is available at the click of a button? And then social media came in the 2000s. And then the question then been, how will our work and how will the world change when you can be connected to everyone and anyone in real time? And now we're going through yet another shift. I think many of us thought it was maybe the Web 3 or decentralized age, but we really know now that it's the age of AI. And I think the question now is, how will our world change now that we have access to instant intelligence whenever we can and whenever we want? That's a really interesting question that's going to change the way that we work. Because knowledge is different, or information is different than intelligence. Now, at any moment, we can ask, a entity that has more information than us, what should we do? What should we think about? How should we approach our work? So that's the major question that I think that we're tackling, all of us are tackling now, and that we're going to tackle in the next couple of years. How is the world going to change? So what does it mean to have foresight? It was really serendipitous that I was asked to speak at this conference because I've been writing about this concept of foresight for a few months now, and we'll see it in our in this presentation. But I think that if you think about insights is kind of like making discoveries about the past. All this stuff happened. It's probably because of this. I think foresight is, if insight's making discoveries about the past, I think foresight's making potential discoveries about the future. And that's really exciting. We're trying to look around the corner. And that is what we're obligated, I think, to do as marketers and marketing operations professionals and GTM professionals today, is to try to look around the corner. And I hope that that's what we're going to do today in this presentation. So let's get into it. The first thing that I want to talk about is the marketing maturity model. I came up with this concept maybe 6 months ago because I wanted to put together a diagram that could help people understand, as your company matures and as your marketing function matures, what are the things that are involved and what does it take to get there? Now, one thing not to feel bad about is I don't want this to be an exercise where you feel bad about what stage you're in. No matter what stage you're in, the important question is, what are the specific things from a marketing activities perspective, from a tech stack perspective, from an operational efficiency perspective, and from a cross-collaboration perspective, can we do to get to the next level? That's the things that we want to understand. How can we get to the next level? I can't cover all of it because it'll probably take the entire session, but I wanted to highlight just a few things. Let's talk about the marketing activities section first. One thing that you'll notice in companies that are less mature, going on to more mature, is that at the earlier stages, things are more random, right? They're more chaotic and they're more finger in the wind. And, by the way, the final stage that I came up with, or that I wrote down here, well before I think the theme of this, I heard about the theme of this conference, was foresight. And I think that that's the final stage of maturity, right? Where you're looking around the corner. Anyway, at the earlier stages, marketing is more random, and it's more like it's different every time. And the challenge with that is that if marketing is sort of random, chaotic, and arbitrary, you can't really improve it, and you can't really feel this upward spiral. I was talking with a marketer in a planning session, and they were putting together a seasonal campaign, and they're very excited about this seasonal campaign that was designed to convert customers. And my question to them was, okay, well, how did this campaign perform last year? Can we make some comparisons, and what can we learn? And the marketers really didn't have any answer to that because they did something slightly different last year. You can see the challenge with that, right? My preference and my recommendation is 75 to 80% of your marketing activities should actually be ongoing evergreen programs that you're constantly improving. You can always try new things, but if you don't have this sort of consistency, this repeatability, you can't really improve because you don't know where you came from. So it's really important to templatize, make scalable and repeatable your marketing programs. The second thing that I'll just highlight about this is cross-collaboration. Cross-collaboration is so important. I think one of the biggest problems today in marketing, especially as we get to older and more mature companies, is this concept of siloed planning. And siloed planning happens whenever you're putting together a sales plan or a marketing plan or a product plan, your other teammates and your other leaders aren't in the room. One marketer that I was working with, challenged me on cross collaboration, and she said, "Well, how can you really measure collaboration? It's difficult to measure. We want things a little bit more tangible." And to that I answer, I think you can, absolutely. what percentage of the time do you have marketing leadership meetings where you're making big decisions? What percentage of the time is sales leadership in the room, and is product leadership in the room? Are they there half the time? Are they there 8 out of 10 times? Right? If they're there less than half the time, your collaboration is not very strong. And vice versa as well. In sales leadership meetings, how often is marketing present? Yep, and I see in the chat IT. In finance meetings, in product meetings, how often is IT invited to the table? I love the concept, and I've talked about this in some of my other presentations, but I love the concept of the heist, like in the movie Ocean's 11. And when a group of people, a group of con men are trying to pull off a heist, all of the experts are at the table. You have the pickpocket, the locksmith, the hacker, the person that's really great at disguises. All of them are sitting around the table trying to figure out how to pull off this score. And in my opinion, GTM is the same. If you're trying to figure out how to unlock rapid growth in your company, why not invite all of the experts to the table? You can absolutely measure cross collaboration, and we need to ask ourselves those questions. Okay, moving on. The next thing we're going to talk about is rebuilding marketing measurement. So today, in my opinion, the challenge with marketing measurement is that everyone says all forms of marketing measurement are dead somehow. Everything has just died. Nothing's relevant anymore. And that's just not true. If someone says to you that some sort of channel or something is dead, then it's likely that they're trying to sell you something. But I'm gonna take you through the basics really quickly so you can understand what I'm talking about and why each one actually matters. The other big problem is that many people will believe that there's only one of these is going to be the answer to measuring marketing effectively, and that's not true at all. You actually need to use multiple of them, oftentimes together, to actually get to a closer version of the truth. So at the top left-hand corner, you have single touch attribution. This is where, we're trying to figure out where the leads came from or what converted the leads. People will knock that as not sophisticated enough, but that is a very important question. What channel is driving most of the net new leads? Based on whatever project that you have or initiative that you have, that's an important question to know. Or what's converting more? Multi-touch attribution is taking all the digital touch points along the customer journey and then divvying up the credit. So if there's 4 touch points, they each get 25% each. The problem with this is, it doesn't capture the whole story, but I would argue it at least captures some of the story that we know for sure happened, and at least gives us insight into what's really happening in the customer journey. It is helpful. It is an input, a single input that you can use to help better inform your marketing. At the bottom left-hand corner is incrementality. Incrementality is one of the closest ways that one of the closest things that we have to the scientific method. Okay, incrementality is exposing a group to a treatment and then holding off on another group. And the difference is called lift or incremental lift. It's literally what we did in school, where we put pennies in water and pennies in vinegar and pennies in air and see what the difference was. So incrementality is really close to actually to actually scientifically measuring marketing. And then market mix modeling is incrementality at scale. So you're applying incrementality to all of the different channels, like all of marketing activities as a whole, and finding and trying to make assumptions as to what would happen if all of it's removed or all of it is still there. So my main point is you can actually use multiple of these in tandem to get really, really close to actually measuring marketing's effectiveness, and almost to the point where it can be very prescriptive in what you do next. Now, I'm going to caveat that by these next following questions, right? So this slide tells you yes, we can measure marketing, but this next slide caveats that. So here's a few questions to make you think about marketing measurement. Which generative AI platform do you use most of the time? I use two of them. I use ChatGPT and I use Grok the most often. Which ones do you use? But here's the question. So let's say you use one or two, right? Did you know that there's more than 30? There are more than 30 generative AI platforms that you could use. Why are you using those two? Did you think about trying all of them? What if you received a brand new car? So here's a hypothetical situation, right? A genie comes out of nowhere and is going to give you a brand new car. It's either going to be the latest Mercedes or the latest Honda. Which one do you want? Which one are you going to pick? How about your next mobile phone? You know, which mobile phone are you going to get next? So right now I have an iPhone. Maybe in 2 years I'm going to get a new one. Which one do you think I'm going to get? I'll tell you, I'm going to get an iPhone. My next phone will be an iPhone. I don't really care what features it has. It's just going to be an iPhone. You can apply it to business too. How are you going to pick your next marketing automation platform? Do you see the connective thread that is going through all of this? It's brand, right? Brand is so powerful. Brand is almost next level powerful, you know, to the point where you kind of wonder, like, whoa, how can you even measure that? In the example of the iPhone, right? In the mobile phone, where I'm going to pick the next iPhone no matter what. How does that apply to your marketing? So these are kind of like questions that we really have to struggle answer with. There are two things that are true at the same time. No, the first one from the last slide is that marketing is very close to being really, really scientifically measured. Simultaneously, it is so difficult to quantify brand, and brand can almost be priceless in certain situations. So what do? I mean, I don't have the answer, but I will tell you, if you do consistently good and effective marketing, the brand builds, and it's like an upward spiral. Okay, now let's talk about AI and how it's reshaping marketing execution. So what I'm showing you here is a diagram that I created that shows the different ways that you can organize AI agents. And this stuff is real today, especially if you're on social media, you've seen stuff like this. So, you know, obviously there's human agents versus AI agents. There's a combination or hybrid of the two, where an AI agent qualifies and hands it off to a person when it can't handle things anymore. And an AI agent ecosystem, which is where multiple different agents, could even be from different companies, work together to accomplish some sort of goal. Very much how like a team of humans would work together. I'm going to again share something like negative and then something positive. So just bear with me. Because I will say I have seen the latest. I've seen companies have launched marketing automation agents that can interact with the largest platforms. I've also seen Salesforce release their agent force. And I've seen the demos of how it automatically builds campaigns for marketers based on conversational, based on just conversational chat. So it's real. It is very real today. And there are some people that will tell you that AI is not coming for your jobs, or that it's going to be like human in the loop. We always need human in the loop. That's not really true. AI is actually coming for our jobs, to be honest. And I think that we have to really kind of face that without, trying to sugarcoat it. I laugh when I hear about human in the loop, because like, do many people use Grammarly? Have you ever used like Grammarly? Grammarly helps you write. And that's actually kind of like AI in the loop. You know what I mean? It's actually recommending how you can improve your writing. So AI is absolutely coming for people's jobs. Now there's two important things that I want to say. The first one is that The first one is that the timeline in which AI will, take over everything is uncertain because humans actually have a tendency to be romantic and nostalgic. Okay. So there are, how many people still use pen and paper? How many people still drive a gas car? How many people still like to do still like vinyl records, right? There's this tendency for humans to be like romantic and nostalgic. So that will take time. Also, change generally happens slow. That's the first part. The second thing that's more positive is that the way that I like to look at it is that AI, rather than think that AI is coming for your jobs, think AI is coming for your tasks. Okay. And if you think that your job is just a collection of tasks, then that's the wrong way to think about it. What I always tell my team is our job is to help marketers achieve their objectives. Our job is to help, create a better customer experience, and in the future, AI will be one of our tools that help us to accomplish our jobs. And so one of the important things that we think about as we look into AI is this concept of enablement. Enablement's so important. We need look at all of the different things that you can use to enable teams to do a better job. So I'm going to move on for this topic because I think that I'm spending too long on it. But I will say there are plenty of things that you need to do, and there's always going to be problems to solve. Just imagine if AI, came in and tried to replace you, all the problems that would happen. It's just not going to happen that way. Let's talk briefly about what great reporting looks like. I did this really great exercise and I worked with CMOs to put together what their most important reports are. And they came up with this. There's a few different things that I learned through this exercise. One is that in order to get really great reporting, you have to be iterative. CMOs just can't tell you what they want. You need to show them something first and then give them something to react to. Next is that the process of actually reporting makes you more strategic because it forces you to try to understand what's important and what's not. Here's the other thing that I'll tell you about great reporting, and I did this exercise again with demand generation. The other thing that you really need to think about is great reports tell you what we need to do next or give you some indication that you need to do something. Notice all the target lines, right? Adding target lines to your reports helps let you know if you're on track or not. And that's the one thing that I see that's missing from many reports is that leaders look at a report and they don't know what to do about it. That's what you always want to think about when you're creating reports. What is the next step and what's the next action? Evolving the GTM stack. I put together a maturity model for what tech stacks look like at different stages based on ARR. Now, I'll preface this by saying it doesn't have to look exactly like this. Okay, you can kind of switch and mix and match the tools, and you can bring some tools in earlier or later. No, this is just an example. But here's a couple of things that I want you to think about GTM stack. Number one, as your company grows and the number of your customers grow, the tools usually change. Why? Because privacy and data security becomes more important the bigger your company gets. The other thing is the volume of data is harder to manage, right? Have you ever tried managing, millions of records in Salesforce, and try to do analysis on it? It's really difficult because that's not what Salesforce is made for. So as you go up market, the tools change, and it's a really important thing to think about. I will say my favorite when it comes to technology is usually mid-market or mid-size enterprise because you have the money to actually get the tools, but the volume of data is still manageable and the volume of users is still manageable. At the enterprise level, most of the problems you face are because of scale and volume. Here's the big thing when you think about putting together your technology stack. Always focus on outcomes over outputs, okay? And this is what I try to tell my team. We want outcomes over projects. If you're implementing a new tool, a new email tool, a new AI SDR, a new lead scoring model, that's a project. If you don't get the outcome, which means more revenue, faster sales cycles, less cost, then your project didn't do anything. It means you need to start another project until the outcome is finished. So always think outcomes over projects and outputs. Let's see. We don't have a ton of time to go into this, but I will tell you that it's really important to understand, these new data concepts. And if you follow my writing, you can kind of see some of these charts and diagrams, and it'll teach you how to grasp these. So I'm intentionally going to skip this one because we don't have time, but you know definitely check out my writing. In my articles, you'll see a lot of this stuff. Okay, building for what's next. There's a few things that I want to talk about when it comes to preparing for the future. Okay, first one's one of my favorite concepts, which is next best action. It's important that we all think about how to improve the customer experience, and doing that in a practical way is using AI and machine learning to understand what customers want and to automatically either message them that or surface that to customers. The past was us picking offers and content for certain types of customers. Next best action is having customers self-select, and based on learning algorithms, we send stuff and we surface content that they want. Very much in the way that Netflix and Amazon have been doing it forever. But now, especially in B2B, we need to use technology, AI, to automatically do this for them. Here is something that I've been working on that I think can be really practical. And you can feel free to extend this. And obviously, I made this at the beginning of July. You can kind of shift this over. But this is a practical AI implementation roadmap that you can actually use at your own job. Now, you'll notice at the prep stage, at the very beginning, a lot of it is readiness assessment. A lot of it is understanding, do the people have the skills for it? What kind of training do we need? What kind of risk policy do we need to implement so that we make sure that we don't get in trouble down the road? Next is the piloting phase. You can pilot things like AI SDRs, generative AI for content, and try those. Once you get to the activate stage, you're doubling down on what's working, and you're getting into other things such as, predictive forecasting, as well as what I mentioned before, which is AI for, operational tasks, right? That actually use the systems for you. So definitely check this one out. I think the organizers will share this deck afterward. And as we look into the future, I wanted to share this model that I've been working on for some time. I can't go over all of it, but it's called the 7P model of marketing operations. And there's two things that I want you to think about while going into the future. The first one is performance. Too many marketing teams stop short of understanding if they really move the needle or not. They ship campaigns, they ship events, they ship whatever, social media campaigns, but they don't take the next step to do the hard work to understand how that's actually moving revenue and how it's helping us get to the next stage. The last one that I want to highlight is partnerships. And if, especially during this age of AI, what we need to realize is we need to do this as an entire GTM org, not siloed and not one by one. And marketers, salespeople, product, IT, finance, historically, we've all operated as separate teams. The truth is we're all just one team. And that's the number one way to operate. Anyway, that's my presentation. I think for my final words, I do hope that this gives you all a little bit more ammo to use to arm you as we get into the age of AI, and that it helps you to start looking around the corner to see what's next and to prepare yourselves, because that's what foresight means to me. So thanks everybody so much, and thanks for your time. Appreciate being here.
Thank you, Darrell. That indeed, for our listeners, was a powerful take on how AI is reshaping the way we build, scale, and lead the marketing operations. Thank you so much for being with us here today. From smarter systems to sharper execution, now we have a clear call for teams to evolve how they work and not just what they deliver. Up next, we continue the momentum with our very first session, Hyper Personalized Marketing Beyond Segmentation with David Edelman. Let's head there now.